The Lost Child, Chapter 1. It was springtime. From the shadow of narrow lanes and alleys emerged a gaily clad humanity thick as a crowd of bright-colored rabbits, using from a warren. The men, women, and children were all going to the fair. Some walked, some rode on horses, others went in bullock cart. One little boy ran between his parents, like as the joyous smiling morning. He was very happy and filled with life and laughter.
"Come, child, come," called his parents, as he lagged behind, attracted by the toys in the shops that lined the way.
He hurried toward his parents, his feet obedient to their call, his eyes still lingering on the receding toys. As he came to where they had stopped to wait for him, he could not suppress the desire of his heart, even though he well knew the old cold stare of refusal in their eyes. "I want that toy," he pleaded. His father looked at him angrily. His mother, melted by the free spirit of the day, was tender and giving him to her finger to hold, said, "Look, child, what is the front of you?" The pleasure of what was in front of him filled his eager eyes. They had left the dusty road on which they had walked so far and entered a footpath in the field. It was a flowering mustard field, pale like melting gold, as it swept across miles and miles of even land. The child looked up to his father and mother, and filled with the joy and wonder of this vast glory, left the footpath and plunged into the field, passing like a colt. "Come, child, come on the footpath." He went toward his parents gaily and walked along side by side with them for a while. However, he was soon left behind, attracted by the little insects and worms along the footpath that were coming out from their hiding places to enjoy the sunshine. "Come, child, come," his parents called. They were resting under a tree, sitting on the edge of a wall. He ran toward them. An old banyan tree had outstretched its powerful arm over the blossoming jackfruit, jamun, neem, champak, and srisa, and cast its shadow across bed of golden grasses and crimson gulmohar, as an old grandmother spread her skirt over her young ones. "Come, child, come," they called to the child, who had now gone running round the banyan tree and gathering him. They looked the narrow, winding footpath which led to the fair from the mustard fields. As they neared the village, the child could see many other footpaths full of crowd going to the fair. A sweet meat seller called out, "Gulab jamun, rasagulla, barfi, jalebi," at the corner of the entrance, and a crowd pressed round his corner. The child stared open eyes, and his mouth watered for the barfi, which was his favorite sweet. "I want that barfi," he slowly mumbled, but he knew that nobody would give any importance to his request. So without waiting for an answer, he moved on. A man stood holding a pole with yellow, red, green, and purple balloons flying from it. The child had an overwhelming desire to possess them all, but he knew his parents would never buy him the balloons because they would say he was too old to play with them. So he walked on. A juggler stood playing a flute to a snake, which coiled itself in a basket.
Its head was raised in a graceful bend like the neck of a swan. The child went toward the juggler, but knowing his parents had forbidden him to hear such gross music as the jugglers play, he proceeded further away. There was a roundabout in full swing. Men, women, and children carried in whirling motion, shrieked and cried with dizzy laughter. The ring seemed to move very fast at first. Then gradually it began to move less fast. Presently, the child with rapt attention saw it stop. This time he made a bold request. I want to go on the roundabout. Please, father, mother. There was no reply. He turned to look at his parents. They were not there. They were not on the other side either. He looked behind. There was no sign of them. A full deep cry arose within the child's dry throat, and he ran from where he stood, crying in fear, Mother, Father. Tears rained down from his eyes. His flushed face was convulsed with fear. Panic-stricken, he ran to one other side first, then to the other, in all directions, not knowing where to go. Mother, Father, he wailed. His yellow turban came untied, and his clothes, wet with perspiration, became muddy, where the dust had mixed with the sweat of his body. Now stood defeated, his cries suppressed into sobs. Then he ran again, this time to a temple to which people seemed to be crowding. Every little inch of space there was congested with men, but he ran through people's leg, his little sob lingering on the air. Mother, Father, near the entrance of the temple. However, the crowd became very thick. Men jostled with each other. The poor child struggled to carve a way between their feet, but he was knocked to and fro, and he might have been trampled underfoot had he not struck at the highest pitch of his voice. Father, mother. A man in the surging crowd heard his cry, and stooping with very great difficulty, lifted him up in his arm. How did you get here, child? Whose baby are you? The man asked. As he moved away from the crowd, the child wept more bitterly than ever now, and only cried, I want my mother, I want my father. The man tried to soothe him by talking him up to the roundabout. Will you have a ride on the horses? He gently asked. As he approached the ring, the child's throat tore into 1,000 shrill sobs, and he only shouted, I want my mother, I want my father. The man headed toward the place where the juggler still played on the flute to the dancing cobra. Listen to that music, child, he pleaded. But the child shut his ears with his finger and shouted even more loudly, I want my mother, I want my father. The man took him near the balloons, thinking the bright colors of the balloons would distract the child's attention. Would you like a rainbow-colored balloons? He asked persuasively. But the child turned his eyes from the balloons and just sobbed, I want my mother, I want my father. Then, to make the child happy, the man took him the sweetmeat shop. What sweet would you like, child? He asked. The child turned his face away from the sweetmeat shop, and he sobbed, I want my mother, I want my father.